Welcome again to KeithSpeaks. This is Keith. If this is your first time, welcome. I am on part two of a three-part series called Sick Money. This is the shell game, Restructuring the Racket. Please comment, definitely share. It's important information. If you choose to do so, like. Now, if you watched part one, you know the structure. 5 companies. Vertical ownership from the insurance premium straight through to the pharmacy counter, paying themselves at every step, setting their own prices, employing the doctors, running the data. Now I want to talk about what happens when the structure gets exposed. December 4th, 2024, the CEO of United Healthcare gets shot outside a Manhattan hotel, and something uncomfortable happened in the national conversation. People, regular people, struggled to be simply horrified. Now, they were horrified, but underneath that, there was something else. Something they didn't want to say out loud, but were absolutely saying in their group chats. They understood the rage. They didn't support the violence, but they understood the rage. And if you need to understand why, you just watched part one. Go back, watch it again if necessary. Because when a system is designed to deny your claims, delay your care, and profit from your suffering, and that system is legally protected, politically connected, and apparently immune to reform, people start to feel like there is no recourse left. That moment cracked something open. The industry felt it, and the executives in those corner offices started asking their restructuring consultants a very specific question. How do we look different without being different? Let me teach you something about how corporations respond to public pressure, because it has a very consistent playbook, and it has nothing to do with actually changing. Step 1, rename the most visible problem. Express Scripts was one of the most despised names in American pharmacy. After Cigna acquired them, they slowly began calling the whole operation Evernorth. Same company, same practices, same FTC investigation, but with a new logo. New press releases about health services and innovation and whole person care. The insulin pricing investigation is ongoing, but the name on the door changed. Anthem, one of the largest health insurers in America, became Elevance Health in 2022. Same corporate structure, same 47 million covered lives, fresh brand identity. Humana's Home Health Division, Kindred at Home, became Centerwell Home Health. Their pharmacy became Centerwell Pharmacy. Their primary care became Centerwell Senior Primary Care. 3 separate business lines operating independently were suddenly all Centerwell, creating the illusion of a unified, patient-centered brand while actually just making it harder to trace which subsidiary is doing what to whom. The rebrand is not cosmetic. The rebrand is legal strategy. A new name creates distance between a corporate action and its consequences in court, in the press, and in the public memory. Now let's talk about what the Federal Trade Commission found when they looked under the hood, because this is where the receipts get serious. The FTC investigated the big 3 PBMs, CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and Optum Rx. Here's what they documented. PBM affiliated pharmacies, the pharmacies owned by the same company as the PBM, were being reimbursed at higher rates than independent pharmacies for the exact same drugs. The referees were paying their own team more. They found anti-competitive rebating practices that artificially inflated insulin list prices. The way it worked, drug manufacturers pay rebates to PBMs to get preferred placement on formularies. The PBMs then use those rebates as leverage, what researchers call a rebate wall, to block cheaper biosimilar alternatives from even getting on the formulary. So the cheaper drug exists, it's available, and the PBM keeps it off your plan to protect the rebate revenue from the expensive one. They found spread pricing, where the PBM charges the insurance plan one amount for a drug and pays the pharmacy a lower amount, keeping the difference as profit with no transparency to anyone. The FTC filed formal action in September of 2024 against all 3 PBMs and their affiliated group purchasing organizations. And then there's the United Health AI denial story. A lawsuit alleged that United Health deployed an AI system to process Medicare Advantage claims, and that system had a 90% error rate on denials. 9 out of 10 denials were wrong, and because the appeals process is intentionally complex and time consuming, only 0.2% of denied claims were ever appealed. The math is deliberate. Deny everything, bank on the fact that almost nobody fights back. That's not an insurance company running an inefficient system. That's a denial factory running a very efficient one. Now, here's a story that sounds like accountability but deserves closer examination. In 2024, CVS Health, facing a 20% stock drop and mounting losses in the Aetna division, began reportedly considering breaking itself apart, splitting CVS Pharmacy, CVS Caremark, the PBM, and Aetna, the insurer, into 3 separate entities. Wall Street called it unlocking value. Consumer advocates called it potential progress. And I'm asking a different question. If you legally separate CVS Caremark from Aetna, who does Caremark start negotiating on behalf of? And if the same institutional investment funds, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, hold majority positions in all 3 of the newly separated companies simultaneously, as they currently do across all 5 major insurers right now, have you actually broken anything up? Vertical integration through corporate structure and vertical integration through shared institutional ownership produce the same result. The address changes. The alignment doesn't. CVS is not committed to a breakup as of early 2026. They are, in their words, exploring options. Watch that space and watch who benefits when the dust settles. Now let's talk about the magic weight loss shot. Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound. The GLP-1 drug class. And I want to be honest about this because the reaction to those drugs is genuinely complicated. In clinical trials, people lost 15 to 20% of their body weight. Early research suggests benefits for cardiovascular risk, certain cognitive conditions, even addiction patterns. There is real science here. But here is what they are not leading with. 50% of patients stop taking the drugs within 1 year. Side effects, cost, access. Only 14% of people who start Wegovy are still on it after 3 years. And when you stop, the weight comes back. The drug is not designed to cure anything. It's designed to be taken for the rest of your life. The known risks include pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas, gastroparesis, where the stomach stops moving food through the digestive system normally. Surgeons now require patients to hold GLP-1 medications for a full week before elective procedures because food stays in the stomach too long and creates dangerous complications under anesthesia. There are documented cases of gallbladder disease, kidney injury, and a described association with thyroid cancer that carries a contraindication for patients with family history. A large study published in Nature Medicine in January 2025 found an 11% increase in arthritis risk among GLP-1 users. And the FDA received over 8,000 adverse event reports for Ozempic alone in 2023. In the real world, not clinical trials with carefully selected patients and intensive coaching, real-world weight loss on semaglutide averages about 7.7%. That is roughly half of what the clinical trial showed. Because in the real world, people have lives. They miss doses. They experience side effects. They can't afford the follow-up appointments. Now here's the question nobody is asking loudly enough. Why is the entire conversation about the drug and not about why Americans are obese in the first place? Ultra-processed food makes up over 70% of the American food supply. Food engineered in laboratories to override your natural satiety signals, sold cheapest in the communities with the least access to fresh alternatives, marketed most aggressively to children, subsidized by the same federal agriculture policy that makes processed corn derivatives cheaper than a head of broccoli. And the same vertically integrated system that profits from the obesity epidemic, that profits from type 2 diabetes that follows, that profits from the cardiovascular disease that follows, is now the entity that processes your GLP-1 prescription through their PBM, fills it at their pharmacy, and monitors your adherence through their data analytics division. Every single month for the rest of your life. The food made you sick, the system charges you for sick, and now the system is selling you the shot for the sickness the food caused, while the food company and the pharmaceutical company are both traded on the same stock exchange. On May 12, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order titled Delivering Most Favored Nation Prescription Drug Pricing to American Patients. And by February 2026, TrumpRx.gov was live, a government-branded direct-to-consumer platform where Americans can purchase certain drugs at prices aligned with what other developed nations pay. Ozempic drops from $1,000 a month to $350. Wegovy from $1,350 to $350. Medicare beneficiaries pay a copay of $50. 16 pharmaceutical companies signed agreements. And I want to say this clearly before I take it apart. Cheaper drugs are better than more expensive drugs. If this saves someone's grandmother $800 a month, that is real money and it matters. I'm not dismissing that. But follow the money, because the mechanics are the message. MFN pricing applies only to brand name drugs that have no generic or biosimilar competition. That is a narrow slice of the pharmaceutical market. The 16 companies who signed these agreements signed voluntarily after the administration threatened pharmaceutical tariffs. That is not law. That is a deal made under pressure, and deals made under pressure can be renegotiated, walked back, or legally challenged. Several legal challenges are already in motion, questioning whether the president has statutory authority for all this. Trump RX is direct to consumer. You buy with cash. If you can't afford $350 a month in cash, and tens of millions of Americans cannot, this program does not help you. And if you have private insurance, there is no automatic mechanism forcing your insurer to pass these discounts through to your copay. The PBMs that process insurance-covered prescriptions, still in the fulfillment chain. OptumRx, CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, still processing, still earning spreads, still managing formularies. And the drug getting the most attention and the most prominent placement in the Trump RX announcement, Ozempic, the one you take forever, the one generating recurring revenue for the manufacturer, recurring processing fees for the PBM, recurring dispensing revenue for the pharmacy, and recurring data value for the analytics division, every single month without end. Trump RX discounts the entry price on the most profitable lifetime subscription in pharmaceutical history. That is not dismantling the Racket. That's a lower cover charge at the same club. And now the development that should make everyone stop. Cigna, through its Evernorth Health Systems arm, launched Quallent Pharmaceuticals in 2024. Quallent is their own private label biosimilar drug brand. First product, their own version of Humira, the highest grossing drug in American pharmaceutical history, with AbbVie's patent finally expired. Cigna decided they didn't want to just process and fill the biosimilar. They wanted to make it. An insurance company that also owns a PBM, that also owns a specialty pharmacy, now also manufactures a drug. And whose formulary do you think Quallent's products appear on favorably? And at what tier? And with what prior authorization requirements for the competitor's version? When the insurer becomes the manufacturer, the circle is complete. They set the premium. They approve the drug. They make the drug. They fill the drug. They process the claim. They pay themselves. United Health was the template. Everyone else is following. Cigna just took it one step further. Watch the pattern. So the investigations came. The rebranding happened. The congressional hearings aired. Trump RX launched with a press conference and a government website. And the 5 companies we met in part 1 kept acquiring, kept consolidating, kept paying themselves. With a few names on the door and a few restructured consultants billing by the hour. The shell game never stopped. They just added more shells. In part 3, we're going to get personal because all of this, the vertical integration, the self-payment, the rebrand, the magic weight loss shot, the government drug website, it all lands somewhere. It lands in the body of the average American. It lands in their bank account. It lands in their relationship with their own health and their own sense of agency. And we are going to talk about something that most health content will not touch. The question of whether a population that is medically dependent, financially stressed, and perpetually distracted is a population that is easier to govern. Because when a government and a corporate structure merge their financial interests, there is a word for that arrangement. And we're going to say it out loud in part 3. Thank you again for spending your time with me. Definitely look out for part 3. Please do comment, absolutely share. If you choose to do so, like. This has been Keith. Keith Speaks.